The state's health department says 5 people have now died from a so-called flesh-eating bacteria. 16 cases in total have been reported in the Sunshine State as of last Thursday. CBS News correspondent Christian Benavides spoke with a microbiologist about the severe danger this bacteria poses.
How quickly does it spread?
Oh, how quickly does it spread? So one of the things about Vibrio vulnificus is that it can double its numbers in about 20 minutes. So it's a really fast-growing bacteria. So if you get an infection, a wound infection, then that infection can go from a little red pinprick on your leg or your hand to a full-blown infection with an open wound in 24 hours.
And Christian joins us now. I mean, this is certainly alarming to hear about, Christian. How does someone become infected with this kind of bacteria?
Nancy, and not to scare anyone, but this is a bacteria that is commonly found in warm ocean water. However, it is rare for an infection to become severe. There are 2 ways that you can develop Vibrio vulnificus or come into contact with this bacteria. The first way is if you have some sort of cut in your body and then you're wading through water or you're swimming out in ocean water and that bacteria comes into contact with that open wound. That is one way. The second way is if you're eating uncooked seafood, something such as oysters, which are known carriers of this. And again, this is a fast-moving bacteria. That microbiologist that I spoke to said that essentially this can go from infection to death within 48 hours if you do not get treatment.
I mean, anytime you hear flesh eating, you're certainly alarmed just by that alone, but 48 hours is a quite quick turnaround. Who is most susceptible to this type of illness? Are some people at greater risk than others?
Yes, and that's the important part, that those who are susceptible to this, because as I mentioned, this bacteria is actually quite common in warm ocean waters, but if you're immunocompromised, let's say that you have kidney disease, liver disease, or heart disease, and you have a cut and you're out swimming in the water, or you come into contact with water and then you notice that it starts to turn red, you start getting feverish, that is about the time that you should alert someone and let a medical professional know that. In fact, some people who may be young and healthy may eat oysters. They may think that they have a foodborne illness, but it might actually be from Vibrio vulnificus, but they just never know because they go through it. They go through the motions and get through it. But if you start to feel feverish, if you start to get chills, and you're immunocompromised, it's likely something you want to speak with a medical professional about.
Yeah, maybe stay away from those oysters in the meantime. Christian Benavides, thank you very much for that report.
A day on the lake has turned into a nightmare for a water skier in Missouri. Officials there say he became infected with a brain-eating amoeba.
Yeah, I've heard about this. So it happened at the Lake of the Ozarks. At last check, that patient was still in the hospital. Health experts say the amoeba can appear in warmer fresh water, and that includes lakes, streams, rivers, and underchlorinated pools.
Swimmers can ingest the amoeba through their nose. You'll feel symptoms between 1 to 12 days after you're exposed.
The brain inflammation or brain infection, so headache, fever, stiff neck, vomiting, change in the mental status of the patient, confusion, coma, seizures.
To avoid any infections, you can keep your nose shut with nose clips.
Officials also suggest keeping your pool and water systems clean with chlorination. They say brain-eating amoeba infection is extremely rare. It's very rare, but I feel like we get 1 or 2 of these a year.
Yeah, we've reported on it before.
Yeah.
It's enough to...
It is mortifying.
It's a fresh
water.
water.
Go buy a nose plug.
Not go in the water for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy. I didn't even know the plague was still something that was going on.
For both visitors and residents of South Lake Tahoe, it's shocking to hear about a case of the bubonic plague.
This was very news to me, and that's scary.
But the cases are rare, but they do occur.
Heather Orchard, the nursing manager for El Dorado County Public Health, says plague bacteria are commonly found in higher elevation areas. It's carried by rodents and often transmitted by fleas.
So this person was camping in an area in South Lake Tahoe and was bitten likely by a flea.
That person is now getting medical treatment and recovering at home.
A lot of the symptoms are very common: nausea, vomiting, muscle aches, a bite,
that they may have noticed.
While these cases can be serious, they are curable.
It's treated with antibiotics and it's early identification.
The last human case of plague in El Dorado County was in 2020, but officials are routinely tracking it. So far this year, 4 rodents have tested positive in the Tahoe Basin.
We should have something letting people know that, hey, be careful, wear something. We should make some aware to people.
Still, there are a lot of questions from people who frequent the area.
Is this the only place it's been happening?
About a disease they first read about in their history books and the latest person to test positive.
Health officials here in Minnesota are tracking an increase in cases of tularemia, also known as rabbit fever, across the state. Commonly found in small rodents, and people typically develop that illness from tick and fly bites or by being scratched or touched by animals that have it. And here with us to share more is Maria Bai, who is an epidemiologist with the Minnesota Department of Health. Maria, appreciate you joining us here on First Alert at 4. To be quite honest, I've actually never heard of tularemia until today. So let's start off by talking about what it is and why this year's case numbers are concerning to your department.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today. You're not alone in this. Many people haven't heard of tularemia before. Tularemia is a potentially serious bacterial disease that's naturally found in our environment, and it can infect both humans and people. We're currently in peak season for tularemia here in Minnesota, and unfortunately, we're seeing an increase in cases in both people and pets, especially pet cats. This makes it crucial for Minnesotans to understand how it's spread, and more importantly, what steps they can take to prevent themselves from getting sick, as well as their furry companions from getting sick.
And then, Maria, this increase, is it something that you expect to continue through the rest of the summer or fall? Are there any particular Minnesota regions or counties seeing more activity than others?
Unfortunately, there's no way to predict it exactly, but traditionally we do see a large peak over the summer months in July and August when people are spending a lot of time outside and may be exposed to animals and ticks and flies where they might get sick. So we would not be surprised if we do see more cases in humans and in animals.
And then, Maria, how would viewers who are watching who potentially get it, how would they know that they do have tularemia?
Yeah, so symptoms of tularemia often start off with just general symptoms that look like a lot of other illnesses. So people might get a fever, muscle aches, they may lose their appetite, they might be fatigued. But the interesting thing about tularemia is that there's more specific symptoms that might show up depending on how someone is exposed. So for instance, if they were bitten by a tick or by a cat, they also might get swollen lymph nodes right around where they were bitten, and they might get a new ulcer or a skin wound right where they were bitten as well. Or if they breathed in the bacteria when they accidentally mowed over a dead or a sick rabbit, they might get symptoms like a cough or other pneumonia-like symptoms. So really the symptoms are tied to how that person may have been exposed.
Good to know for our viewers out there. You can find more info on the Minnesota Department of Health's website. Senior epidemiologist Maria Bai. Maria, thank you for sharing your insight and expertise and for joining us today here on First Alert at 4.
It seems rabbits enjoy living in Fort Collins just as much as people. They're often spotted hopping through neighborhoods looking for grub. But some southeast Fort Collins neighbors noticed bunnies where cute wasn't exactly the word that came to mind. I snapped this photo of one of the rabbits I've seen with the growth. I also saw this photo posted on Reddit, also spotted in Fort Collins.
Like a scabbyish looking kind of growth over her face.
Looks like it was black quills or black toothpicks sticking out all around his mouth.
Susan Mansfield said she saw a different bunny with tentacles in her yard in recent years.
He had this same black stuff on him, and I thought he would die off during the winter, but he didn't. He came back a second year, and it grew.
Some
Yes, I have.
feel bad for our tiny neighbors.
If they have, something that, we can help them with.
Colorado Parks and Wildlife confirms this is a virus that's not contagious to other animals like people's dogs, but they say leave this wildlife alone like you would with any of the neighborhood bunnies.
Mutated animals are gripping the US in a bizarre warts-like outbreak. Deer across the country have been spotted with tumour-like growths hanging off their bodies. These deer join the likes of rabbits and squirrels who have showed signs of similar viruses in recent months. Wildlife officials have already identified the condition as deer cutaneous fibroma, better known as deer warts, which is a condition spread through disease-carrying insects, and it's spreading like wildfire. These wart growths are species-specific, and it is understood that they cannot jump to humans or other animals.